Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Outlaw Brothers, a Hong Kong action movie from 1990 that stars Frankie Chan, Mok and Yukari Oshima. I've been covering some girls with guns movies lately, and this one probably qualifies within that subgenre. Now, following plot synopsis was taken from the website DVD Talk. In the space of the first 11 minutes or so, the brothers, named James, played by Frankie Chan, and Bond, played by Mok, managed to steal two Porsches at different places across the city and fend off a horde of police officers with a broom. That sets the tone perfectly for the rest of Outlaw Brothers. They steal exotic cars for their uncle, a retired car thief himself, and rake in the profits so they could drink and romance women at the local club, setting the stage for brisk and often outlandish action scenes. Their scheme gets complicated, though, when a beautiful and physically adept undercover cop, Tequila, played by Yukari Oshima, presents herself as a potential buyer to one of their vehicles, partially as a way to get under the skin of the underworld on a scale broader than stolen cars. So if you're familiar with this kind of Hong Kong action flick, you may expect some filler material, as I like to say. This basically translates to a generic style plot and characters that serve the purpose of bridging the action scenes. That's partially true with Outlaw Brothers. Yes, the conflicts and the character work are not as good as something like Angel Terminators 2, which I reviewed recently, but the characters do have a bit of color here. You know, the opening scene shows a cop who botches a stakeout on these cars, one of which gets stolen right from under his nose, and he actually calls the thief in the car and asks him to return it, and the thief just tells him to, he just insults him and drives off. It was an amusing scene. And there are scenes in nightclubs with our two protagonists interacting with women in different ways. Nothing great, but if you get a feel for the characters, with Frankie being the more seasoned of the two. And then Yukari Oshima is absent for the opening act, but once she arrives, she gets a co-lead role with significant screen time and multiple fights. And she does tend to play like stoic fighter or generic baddie in her movies, some of her other movies. But Outlaw Brothers allows her to show some personality, which is nice. Now, in terms of the fights, Yukari is in fine form here, breaking out some hard-hitting moves, as I like to say. The real advantage is that she gets more action than in some of her other films. And I feel like I need to cover some of the, less good movies from some of these actresses, like Yukari Oshima, Moon Lee, because there are times where they're in a movie and you see them on the poster or the marketing, and they're in the movie for like a handful of minutes, and they get like one action scene. Like, it happens fairly common in this subgenre, so that's why I keep mentioning, like, oh, she gets a good amount of action in this, she gets a good amount of screen time, because in some cases that does not happen. But, she gets to kick some butt here. So, like I said before, she's absent during the opening act, and there is a good fight, though, in that opening act, inside of a parking garage, with Frankie and Max attempting to steal their second Porsche car of the evening. And they butt heads with this surprisingly high number of security guards. Like, this has to be the most heavily guarded parking garage in the world. And so you get Max trying to find an exit in the car because they're blocking off the exits. And then Frankie's distracting and fighting the guards hand to hand. So it's a good scene. It's what you'd expect from Hong Kong from this era in terms of editing, camera work, and fighting quality. And then Yukari shows up about the 25-minute mark and gets a solid introductory fight in a chop shop where they cut the cars up and sell the parts and stuff. And she shows you her speed, her athleticism, and the stuntmen take a few nasty falls in that scene. That's a good fight. Then you get like a poolside fist fight near the 40-minute mark. Pretty legit again, with Yukari and Frankie teaming up. This is one of those fights that's usually clipped into like those Best of Yukari Oshima compilations on YouTube. You'll frequently see this fight in there somewhere. And it seems to be one of those fan favorites. Some effective humor is mixed into this one as well. And then our thieving protagonists make the mistake when they steal Machiko Nishiwaka's car. And this is an actress who we've discussed a few times recently. And she usually plays a good baddie. And that eventually leads to the big finale, which is in a warehouse. It's lengthy, very entertaining. One of the best of Oshima's career, in my opinion. She gets a 2-on-1 showdown, where she gets to really throw down, and then she gets a 1-on-1 showdown after that. Now, the negative of this finale is that Nishiwaki's character only gets like a short-lived action scene. You know, she basically uses a gun a little bit of fighting, and that's it. So she doesn't really get a proper fight at the end of this movie, which I was disappointed by. I think she should have, because she can move quite well when you see her in other films. But even with that, this finale is solid. And then you get a few little scuffles mixed in throughout the film. So I would say this is another entertaining flick in the girls with guns subgenre of Hong Kong cinema. So if you're like really exploring this is one I think you should check off your list and get it in, get a watch in. Now it's currently available streaming on YouTube. It is the English dub, unfortunately, but I think it's still worth watching. Hopefully we get a Blu-ray someday of a lot of these movies, and we did get some, right, with the Inspector Wears Skirts franchise and the In the Line of Duty franchise. So who knows? Maybe we'll get some of these as well. Hopefully. And as always, folks, I'll see you next time.